Namaste and greetings. I'm Simi Mehta, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav Eval Niti, Anusandhan Sansthan, Nai Delhi. Extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI #Web Policy Talk. Today, we are gathered for a special panel discussion on climate migration and urban planning in Bangladesh, impact and way forward, as a part of the State of Cities #City Conversation. This event is organized by IMPRI Center for Habitat, Urban and Regional Studies and IMPRI Impact and Policy Research Institute, New Delhi. Now, let me take this moment to introduce the gathering. Our esteemed speaker for today is Dr. Reazul Ahsan. He's an assistant professor at the Department of City and Metropolitan Planning, University of Utah, Salt Lake, USA. She's also the academic lead at Urban Ecology Program, University of Utah, Asia Camp in South Korea. We welcome you, sir. We are honored to be joined by Dr. Bina Sengar as a discussant. She's an assistant professor, School of History, Dr. Babasaheb, Marathwada University, Aurangabad, Maharashtra. We welcome you, ma'am. Now, I welcome and invite our moderator, Dr. Simi Mehta, CEO and Editorial Director of IMPRI, to initiate the discussion with her opening remarks and to proceed with the deliberation. We look forward to learning from our esteemed gathering. Thank you.
Thank you, Jibi, and good afternoon, everyone from India, and good evening to everyone joining in South Korea and other parts of the world. So this program is especially very important when we are talking about climate refugees, climate migrants. In fact, we do not have in the international discourse, in the lexicon, still as of yet, which I think Professor Reazul Ahsan would be talking about. And this is a topic which is really close to our work that we are doing. And I really am thankful to both Dr. Reazul and Dr. Bina for taking time from their schedules and joining us for this very important talk. So I would just like to share the work that we are doing, very similar to what Dr. Reazul would be talking about and would be offering his perspectives. And it would really be helpful. This is part of the project that is funded by Social Science Research Council, New York. And it is, I'll just share the screen, and perhaps Dr. Reazul's perspectives would also be added advantage as we move forward in this work. So this is the project Environmental Refugees, Climate, Health and Livelihood in the Indian Ocean World. It is a multi-country study, and the participants are from India, Bangladesh, Tanzania and Mozambique. And if you happen to log in to the website ior-climatechange-research.com, you'd find the details about our work and the kind of things that we are doing at the grassroots level, despite, I would like to underscore here that despite the challenges posed by COVID-19. So several of our team members and their coordinators have gone to the field. They have collected data and also a lot of photographs, etc. Some bit of the information would also be provided by Dr. Bina, who is also part of this 4-nation team. She is joining us currently from Gujarat, and as all of you know, our speaker for the day is joining us from South Korea. So with this, I would like to hand it over to Dr. Reazul, and it's just over to you, sir. And please feel free to share your screen, and we look forward to an enriching discussion. So please unmute.
Thank you, Dr. Simi. It's an honor to be with you all. And I was so surprised when I got this invitation over email, and then I did my PhD on these climate migration issues. And my origin is from Bangladesh, and which is very near to India, and we have the similar challenges. And then when I got this invitation, I found really I need to take part of this one. So let's share this one. And feel free to stop me at any point if you have any questions or concern. I'm more than happy to take as a discussion, because this is a challenge, not for me, but for my son, his son, and so do you all. So I'm talking a little about climate migration, urban planning in Bangladesh. So the first and foremost thing, and Dr. Simi, I'm so thankful that you mentioned this on the climate migration or climate refugee. Yeah, this is the biggest challenge, the definition. I can tell some funny things, because my name in Korea, they call me Dr. Ahsan. According to Bangladesh context, they call me Reazul. And I'm in Australia. Has a son name a little in the font called SM Reazul Ahsan. So they call me Sam. See, the same people are called by different name. And then the climate change and climate migration, the people, why I'm saying my example, the people and the different organizations, they define the people who are displaced because of different climate issues in different name. And that has a strong political issue behind it and social and economical context. In some countries, they call it climate refugee. So when you say that refugee, it means someone who is seeking refuge. When someone is seeking refuge, which has under the legal advice of either political refuge or religious issues, that means some countries has to give them some kind of support. That's why some countries try to avoid it saying climate refugee, because if I say it, then I have to support them. But then climate migration, this type of migration is kind of new. Under the migration theory, it's not very common. So many of the policymakers and politicians, they said, oh, this is not like any definition. We don't believe on this one. So let's talk on this one, and we'll have more time to discuss about this. Let's start. So a common argument is always happening. This climate migration is a common word. We have been practicing this one. Many chapters have been written on this one. Many articles have been published. However, the term is not well established as a policy regulation. So common arguments suggest that economic migrants respond to both push and pull. When there is an economic migrant, there's a push and pull factor. The push is like somebody pushing them to go to the city. There's better jobs. Or the city pull the people. Come here. We'll have more opportunities for you. But then the climate-induced migrant, they don't have any choice. There's no push-pull factor. Rather, I have to go somewhere to survive. And then this definition, I have to go somewhere to survive. That is out of the traditional migration theory practice. Traditional migration theory, they talk only about push or pull. And then that's why many of the school of thought, they're saying, no, we can't define this type of people under climate migration. And some of them take disadvantages that this is a new types of word, and we don't know how to handle with them. And many planning agencies do not understand, or lack of understanding, that what to do with this type of word or this type of people. So why is the difference? This thing is always come. Then what is the difference between climate migrants and economic migrants? Let's have a look at the difference. Is very narrow line. Climate migrant is understood as a multi-causal event. That means people could come for many other events, yet one in which is environmental diverse play a significant role, like cyclone, tornadoes, flash flood, even the drought. There are so many different challenges that are involved to cause climate migration. On the other hand, economic migrant, they always have a choice. For example, my origin, I was talking with Dr. Simi a few minutes back, my origin, my ancestors from Bangladesh, they moved to Australia for long ago. And that's an economic migration, because they think that could be a better opportunity for them. And even sometime, like many of us, we raised in a small town and then we moved to Delhi or capital of any other cities for better job. That's called economic migrant, that I always have a choice that why should I go? And we always have an information that if I go to Delhi, I'll have these opportunities. If I move to Mumbai, I'll have this opportunities. Or if I move to New York or Salt Lake, I have these opportunities. A climate migrant always have a choice and always have a previous information. Where should I go? Or maybe they have some kind of social network. Like my brother live in that country, my uncle live in that country, so I should better go there. On the contrary, a climate migrant have no choice but just to go to protect lives. Like I don't have any options. I have to move from here, or I'll die or drown. So that's the difference. The economic migrant always have a choice, which is known as theory push or pull. That I can go or I could be attracted. The climate migrant has no options but to survive. And that is the gap. Somebody has no option but to survive. Should he consider them as a refugee or should he consider them as migrant? And that's the major challenge. And we'll talk on this one continuously. So that is the difference. So let's even think about how this difference reflect in our major policy guidelines. In 2030 is the deadline for sustainable development goals. Every country, especially all the developing countries all over the world, including the developed nations like South Korea, everyone is talking, where is our stand for? Are we achieving all the sustainable development goals or not? That sustainable development goals agenda declaration make multiple references on for migration, because we all know the globalization caused lots of migration. People will move from one corner to another. People will go for better opportunities. And the paragraphs 14, 23, 29, 74, they're all talking about the migration, but they do not link climate change as a migration together. They said migration will happen. People will move from poor country to the rich, rural to the urban areas, low economic zone to high economic zone. But then climate could be an impact for that one. Climate could push the people to move. Sustainable development goal, not link these two together. Even whole world now working on that. The biggest challenge has no declaration about this sector. Yes, it's not that like displacement and migration declaration says the adverse consequence of escalating global threats. They say a little bit that adverse consequences could escalate the global threat and people migrate. But what is that adverse consequence? Is this war, civil war, or climate change or something? They don't have a clear declaration on that. So there's a loophole. Any policymakers or politicians can take this as an opportunity to define it in a different angle. And look at this diagram. This is the UN diagram, how UN changed about urban planning and social consequences over the year for last 2 decades. For 2001, the first preparation of National Adaptation Strategy Plan. For the whole world, how the whole world will nationally take the adaptation program for climate change. And migration could be a part of adaptation. They didn't say this one. They said how we can adapt sea level rise, how we can high temperature or precipitation level changes. But under this one, migration could be an adaptation strategy. They don't define this one very clearly. If you look at this, all the red sector, this in 2015, one of the, now I'm not explaining so many, all of them, because I may not have enough time. So, and Dr. Arjun will stop me like, stop, you don't have enough time. So let's come up here. 2015 was the really game-changing year of UN or sustainable development. So in 2016 October, they declined the new urban agenda, how the new urban design, urban planning system should work with the global challenges, how to achieve the sustainable development goal. March 2015, the Sendai framework declared in Japan about disaster preparedness. September 2015, 2030 agenda for sustainable development goal has been declared. But even the Sendai framework talk about the disaster adaptation, but they don't say that disaster would lead people to force migrate somewhere else. And what we'll do with them, they don't say anything. Rather, they say how we can prepare ourselves on site disaster preparedness. That means we don't need to move, but we'll be on the site. Even sustainable development goal, as I just have mentioned, like they have 3 different declaration in paragraph, but they just say migration could be an adverse impact, not climate change. So try to link this one. I'll come back right at the end of this slide again to connect all the knots together, and we start the discussion here. Now, you might have to think, okay, that is sustainable development issues. What about IPCC? Let's talk about this one. environmental and migration issues gained some attraction in 1985, and the title is Environmental Refugee. 1985, because many of the people from Scotland, they are moving to Australia and some other places because they don't have enough agriculture production because of drought. So they called it environmental refugees. So these people are seeking refuge. So Australian government adopt them, Scottish population there. So they are seeking refuge. And so when you are seeking refuge in the countries like Australia, US, Germany, those who are signing the humanitarian condition in the UN, they are obliged to take those people. But it's not that somebody is forced. They have no other choices, but they have to go right now. They are not at all obliged or at all promised to any of them what they will do with those people. So that was the environmental refugee by UNEAP. But then the fourth IPCC report, which for the first time addressed migration due to climate change factors through two different challenges, drought and cyclone. Yes, we do agree. Many of the African people has to suffer drought, cyclone, many of the Asian, South Asian countries with Hurricane Katrina. But there's another long-term impact of climate change, sea level rise. They did deliberately, or I don't know why they completely remain silent that sea level rise is also caused migration. They just say, yes, drought and cyclone. Why? Now you could argue why drought and cyclone, or you could say, yes, they say something. They say drought and cyclone. But look at this one. Drought and cyclone is a short-term migration. Like they go, drought over, people come back. Cyclone over, people can come back. So that belongs under the traditional migration theory, seasonal migration, push or pull theory. But then when the sea level rise, you cannot come back to that place anymore. So somehow IPCC try to avoid this one. So these are the definition gap. These are the gap between thinking, or I'm not arguing that this intentional or unintentional gap, but these are the loophole. And still today, at the very beginning, I'm really thankful to Dr. Simi. She mentioned this one. We know this word, we use this word every alternate day in our every policy. We're talking about this one, but in main policy documents, IPCC, United Nations, those who are patronizing this type of issues for the developing countries, they deliberately overlook this one. Just now take Bangladesh as an example. And this is, the data may be a little bit late, like 2010 when I did my PhD, but those are the real field data. That's why I'm using those data instead of borrowing someone else who published in journal, but I'm doing the first hand when I was there. I did by myself. So this is Bangladesh. Like take scenario A. There is no sea level rise. There is no sea level rise. Just, I hope if you're lucky enough like that day. This is the coastal area of Bangladesh, and this is West Bengal. And these are the Sundarbans, like they shared together. And this coastal area is the home for 35 million people. How many? 35 million. Total population of Australia, where I'm from, is 23 million. This coastal area is population of, so if there is no climate change, still this is the area for 35 million. And then scenario, consider it scenario B. If there's 1 meter, just predict, if there's 1 meter sea level rise, 15 million people get affected. I'm not calculating the number from West Bengal, only the Bangladesh side. There are more people up here. So only the West Bengal and only the Bangladesh side, 15 million people go underwater. And 17,000 square kilometers of land go submerged. Why are I going to take this 15 million people? Because they cannot come back. They are already under the water. And in scenario C, if 1.5 meter, because the sea level is rising so quick, the Arctic glacier are melting more than we predict. If there's 1.8 meter, 18 million people got affected and 22,000 square meters of land were submerged. I'm still not considering the West Bengal population, only Bangladesh. Why do you accept this 18 million people? Where they will go? Either they'll cross the border, or they'll move to the city, or somewhere. So that 18 million people, This is just an assumption for only one country if you think about the whole world. And those huge number of people are just literally not defined who are they. And this is just a common scenario. We all know about now this one, the sea level rise, the estimated value now. Like in 2030, there'll be 14 centimeters, 2050, 32, and 2100, it will be 88 centimeters. This is just a normal prediction, but now this result has changed because Arctic glacier is melting super fast. We are hoping by 2030, it would be more than 50 centimeters, more than 15 centimeters. By 2050, it will be more than 50 centimeters, and it could be 1 meter or more. So it's no more prediction now. It's going to be reality that 18 million people has a high chance to relocate, and they are not known by any name. And since for Bangladesh case, till 2010, I have been looking at how many people are migrating. I did a field research on Bangladesh capital in Dhaka, the people who are migrating, and did the survey on the slum areas and try to find the people who are migrate to the city for what are the different reasons. And I found like drought, the total percentage, I did the survey on altogether 400 people. And then 30% of the total population are migrated due to the storm surge that come in the land and the water doesn't move away. The water is stuck there and it's a seawater, it's a saline land. So they can't produce anymore. So they have no other options but to migrate. And flood, 19% people in flood and 7% are extreme surge. But the highest number of people come because of frequent storm. And frequent storm is a direct impact of climate change. When the precipitation level change, and the sea level or top sea level precipitation level change, it often happens the storm surge. And that's become very frequent. And you all know this, and for the last 5 or 10 years, the West Bengal and Bangladesh coast are suffering cyclones and storms one after another. Until 2010, the 30% of the total 400 people are migrated just because of the storm surge. And this is just a graph. From 1970 to 2010, the migration has happened from different natural disaster required, and 70%, like highest number of people migrate mostly in 2000 and 2010. If you can recall, 2000 to 2010, 2007, 9, 8, Cyclone Cedar, Cyclone Isla. Can anybody recall? That was one after another. And those are scale 5 level cyclone. And those scale 5 level cyclone that force the people that there is no more place for me in my origin to stay, rather migrate. And these are the like highest number of people migrate during that time, and it's still continuing process. But Cyclone Isla and Cedar has the highest level of impact. And I already said this one, so I can avoid this diagram. So migration in urban areas is double within the decade, 1980 to 1990. And from 1990 to 2010, it's become more. So since 1970, the people start migrating, but they still try to go back to their origin and stay. But during 1980s to 1990, the frequent cyclones, frequent storm surge led the people to migrate, and people are keep on migrating one by one. And so that's the now look from here. Look at this face. Can you see this face, guys? She's 70 years old lady. Can you say like she's either any kind of impact by the push of pull factor, like, yeah, I should go to the city because city is exciting. I move, there are discourse there are fun, more jobs. Does she care for this one? Does she care for the city attraction? Is there any push factor involved here or any pull factor? So this is the one. This climate migration doesn't care about the age, sex, income, or nothing. The only important is survive. So she has to migrate because she has to survive. Otherwise, she has to die. There's two options. You move your land to survive or let it be here to die. So when she moved to the city, she has no name. I mean, she has a name, but no name. Who is she? Either she's migrating as a worker or for education or for better life or something. Nothing, but she comes move to the city just for saving her life. So that is the big difference. Economic migrant always have a choice, always have a push or pull. On the contrary, climate migration is only involved how to save our life. But it's not that the people get a cyclone or a storm surge or flood and then immediately they move. The reality is not like that. People doesn't want to migrate from their origin. Migration is a big challenge. It's not like moving one city to another. It's like permanent migration is kind of move your whole emotion. The land you born, the land you raised, the land your dad born, your family belongs. So it's an emotion. So migrating from your origin, it's a big challenge. So they just don't migrate very next day. They try to stand. They try to stand and try to protect the dam so that they don't need to migrate. They can stop the water. And they try to fight with their hands against the sea. Can you imagine man fighting against the sea with a bare hand and with some piece of mud? Isn't it kind of fun, fighting against the sea? And eventually, still they experience, they wait there till the last moment, and they hold their last hope that no, I'll not go. This is the land of my father. This is the land of my forefather. They are here, and my kids born here. I will not leave this land. But at the end, when all the hope's gone, then all the hope's gone. Like, no, there are no more choices. I have to leave. Either I have two options, leave or die. If I stay in my land, I have only one option to choose, to go, drown, or let's leave. So migration, or especially climate migration, is the last option for the people when there is no other hope. So that's the big difference. You can now point it out that this type of migration happens when there is no hope. All other kind of migration happen when there is a hope. But this is like, there's no hope in my land, so I have to move. I have no other choices. And this has happened. I was trying to find the information, like at what point those people take a decision to move. Like, as I said before, the migration or leaving your origin or your own land is a big challenge, a change of your whole of emotion. So at what point people take this one? And these people, they are not, as I say, they're not motivated by the city. They are very traditional local community. They are not young, they are not youth that I'll move to the city. So when migration is a decision for them, it takes a long challenge. So I asked them, like, what makes you think that it's a better option to migrate? And 53% of them, they said, lost everything. That's all my hope has gone. So I have no other options to move. Only 1% said, I want to keep the family safe, which is a real, genuine, we all want to save our family. So even if you take this 1%, still there's a strong logic. You could say like 1%, oh, I don't care about that, but still it's a strong logic. I want to save my family. We all want. And then 53% says, so there's 1%, 53%. In terms of number, they're a big difference. But in terms of psychologically or socially, think they are similar. And 37%, there's not much hope to start again life in here. Or only 9%, we could have a better life in city, maybe. We don't have to cyclone everything. If you go to city, maybe you could have a better life. But this is the scenario that why people take the decision to move out or consider them as a climate migrant. That's the biggest challenge. And this is the common tradition also. These are some of the real examples. What point people make a decision to migrate. But this is traditional demography in Bangladesh. Like since 1950, the rural population was so high, 95% people live in the rural areas. And within 100 years time, this is prediction that more than 50% people will live in urban areas and less than 50% will live in the coastal or rural areas. Within 100 years time, the whole scenario changed. And do you think it's only because of moving to urban area, better income, better opportunities is the reason? I don't think so. The urban population will increase, yes. Economic push and pull could be a biggest part. At the same time, climate migration or some other consequences is. And this diagram clearly indicates that economic migration is not only the reason that people move to city. There are some other factors. And when you talk some other factors, this diagram answers this question. What are those other factors? Yes, there are some. So this diagram answers this question. And once they move to the city, definitely city has it, or urban area has a big challenge. It changed the land use pattern. It changed their soil context. It changed the quality, vegetation. And there is a diagram from 1999 to 2008 in Bangladesh. The built-up area. In 1999, it was this much. But the same built-up area changed up to here. Because people moving to the city. You could have gone that. Yes, people moving to the city. But then look at the vegetation land. Vegetation land is also decreasing. That means more people coming. Urban green space, urban park, urban land become, open space become more of the built-up area. People start living there. So urban area also changing their character. So migration is not only change the fate of a man or a woman, rather change the fate of a continent or a country or a society by changing the land and some more. But let's talk about some more. This I'm just bringing some photographs that's taken by me, how the changes. Look at this photograph. Those people who migrate to the city, they don't have any land right. They don't know where to live. So they find where they can find the cheapest land or very low price land, even the waste drainage system or waste treatment plant. They start living there. And some of them start living here. This is sewage treatment plant, natural sewage treatment plant. People make their houses in the bamboos and shelter and rent it to the migrant people. So the sewage treatment plant, which is supposed to be protected for healthy reason, now become a resident. So that's the change in the urban land uses. And some people are remain next to the highways. You know, every house next to highways, there is shoulder land. In planning term, we call it shoulder, urban shoulder. So in terms, if you need to extend the highway, we use that piece of land. But these people, those are the public land. Nobody owns it but the government. Those people are coming and making this shelter because they have no other place to live. They can't rent a house. So this is how they change the urban land use. This is how they change the urban built-up area. That's how the whole urban area changed over the time. And not only the land, but the challenge of the resources. Because when the more people come into the urban area, there is a conflict of resources. There is a fight for resources that and one of the major resources, freshwater supply. And thousands of people waiting for only one freshwater supply. So there's a long queue. Those kids cannot even think for going to school. They spend their whole day or morning just to get a fresh water for the family. So that's the demand on the resources as well, not only the land, but the resources. Now think, when you are thinking about an urban area, we think for the land. We think for the urban resources, urban supply, quality of life. Those are all being challenged when people are moving to the urban area. And this is just a diagram. I'm not going to explain much, but just this is the average supply. This is the average supply of fresh water in the capital of Bangladesh. This is almost, in 2010, it was 150 million or 200 million liter per day. But the demand is more than 200 million. So this is demand, this is supply, and there is a big gap, the supply shortage. So the shortage is almost more than 50 million liter fresh water per day. So these people are remain out of fresh water supply. And I want to bring some other data like sanitation. In the poor areas, 50 people have only one toilet. So eventually they use the open spaces. And so I don't want to talk much about that area, but then for the limited time, I just bring the freshwater supply, which is the primary demand for surviving. And every city has these challenges. It's a big gap between freshwater supply and demand. Eventually, they has to depend on natural sources. There's a water from river or pond, and which is not very healthy. And that causes long-term urban health consequences. So this migration not only has planning issues, but social, demographic, and health consequences. So that's a well-known definition or well-known discuss, we can talk about the forced migration, which I like to see climate migration. Forced migration causes urbanization, creates informal settlements to meet the housing need. We already have seen the informal settlement, increase the demand for urban services. We just have seen auto services, and change the urban land use pattern. So any migration, and especially the forced migration, they cause for any urban area these challenges. And these are the major challenges for urban planning practice. Whoever in urban planning or architecture or urban design, these are the major challenges for urban planning. That informal settlement in every corner, and being in Indian context, you can have seen this same thing. And not in Indian context, it's everywhere. You go to New York and go to Sydney, we also have informal settlement, because then the more and more people coming, and we also have shortage of resources. So this is a common urban challenges, and it's led by migration. And when the forced migration is accelerated by some environmental consequences like climate change, this situation will accelerate a lot. There are some Q&A. Dr. Simi, can I take it now?
I think we can do it after your presentation and after Dr. Bina has also spoken.
Okay.
So that would be in tandem with the rest of the presentation.
Okay. Okay. Jamina Khan, I'll take your question later. Will that make you happy?
Sir, they are in the attendees, so they would not be able to.
All right, I'll do. Okay, let's go this one. And this is just a story. Like, I think Dr. Bina will be happy with this. And Dr. Bina, this is a part of a historical part and social context. So this is not only the urban service, but this type of migration even goes up to the humanitarian level, social level. I met a lady, her name was Mariam. Mariam was 32 years old. She's divorced now, and she works in the city as a domestic helper. And she moved with her husband. I'm not going to read this one. She moved with her husband with 2 kids to the city. Mariam is come from a very remote coastal area. She never seen a bus, and she never been to the city. However, due to the frequent cyclone Ayla and Cedar, with her 2 kids, one is 8 years old and is 4 years old, and her husband, they moved to the city. And eventually they can't rent a place. So they live next to the road, make a house like this. And even for this, the Mussulmans or the local political leaders come and ask for the hafta. You know, like, if you live here, you have to give us money. So Mariam's husband pushed Mariam, go and get some job, go and get some money, because my earning is not enough. Back in the village, her money was enough, or his money was enough, because he's just a farmer and they don't have to pay rent, they don't have to pay the electricity bill, they don't have to pay. It's all enough. But now in the city, her husband pushing her, and Mariam is saying that I never been to the city. I even don't know how to cross the road when the bus are coming. I'm so scared. How could I find a job and how could I earn money? And then Mariam's husband said, if you can't earn money, then you don't have to live with us. Get out from my family. They got divorced. Mariam went out with a 4-year-old kid. So it has also social impact. Even the family level, we always overcome these long-term views. See, the migration is not only the resources, not only the urban planning, but even the social level impact. And I'm not going to discuss much about this because this is not my topic or my area of expertise. I don't know much of the social area, but this is the reality. That's why I just bring the story to see how far the migration could go. And now let's talk about the climate migration, the planning, how Bangladesh is doing the planning issues, how Bangladesh is handling this one. Bangladesh, I really say that Bangladesh is doing great. Bangladesh has lots of planning policy on these climate change issues. They are really doing great. I'm really appreciating Bangladesh. Even in 1992, before the climate adaptation plan in 2001, before the National Adaptation Program induced by the United Nations, Bangladesh has environmental policy. In 1992, they're saying how we can protect our environment. In 2005, Bangladesh introduced the National Adaptation Program, this echo of the National Adaptation Program by United Nations. They produced the, after 2000, within 5 years time, Bangladesh designed their own National Adaptation Program. And then year 2009, Bangladesh Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan. Bangladesh focused especially on climate change action plan. What consequences climate change can bring to us and what should we do? And 2010 to 2015, the National Plan for Disaster Management, not only the climate change, but the cyclone, flood, how we could handle on those ones. And 2013, Bangladesh is one of the leading countries in the world. They said Bangladesh climate change and gender action plan. Bangladesh addressed the issues that women are highly vulnerable to climate change. I just told you the story of Mariam. See, the women are highly vulnerable to action of climate change. So Bangladesh, 2013, they have this action plan. And now Bangladesh has the 2021 perspective plan that how we can incorporate climate change in our development process. So Bangladesh has really do some policy actions and plan actions. Yes, of course, you could argue me or ask me what happened. If Bangladesh has this plan, what is the success stories or some other stories can I mention? So try to look at this one. These are the major two plan, adaptation plan program in 2005 and 2009 Bangladesh climate change strategy and action plan. These are the two major plans Bangladesh working on climate change. So, and under this plan, all these 5 plans, they're talking about, however, the NAPA National Adaptation Program 2005 treated migration as an undesirable outcome of climate change. The same thing happened. Recall the back, United Nations, IPCC, they didn't address climate change and migration together. Same here, Bangladesh, saying National Adaptation Program, but they say, yeah, migration is an undesirable. It's not a common, it just happened. Undesirable, I don't want it. So when I don't want a problem, why should I think more about this problem? Same at Bangladesh climate change action strategy for action plan, describe the acknowledgement that, yeah, people are moving, there's migration, but they don't put a clear policy how this migration should be controlled. National Planning for Disaster Management, they talk more about how to protect the coastal areas, not to protect the people who are evacuating the land. Climate Change Gender Action Plan, the plan gives significant importance to gender and climate change issues in 2013. A complementary national action plan for gender and climate was prepared, like how to protect the women. But then when women are migrating or at what stage they are migrating, what are the social consequences? That's not much clear there either. And then Bangladesh made the perspective plan for 2021, that is this year, to how to be more vocal in climate change, like minimizing the carbon emission, minimizing the transport planning, or other issues. But this big social population, remember I said at the very beginning, 18 million people will relocate due to sea level rise. What about these 18 million people? How to accommodate them in the mainstream? What should we call them? None of this plan has any clear guideline for that. The NAPA and National Adaptation Planning Program and Bangladesh Climate Change Strategy for Action Plan, they all revised in 2009 again. NAPA produced in 2005, revised after 4 years. And BCCA SAP was prepared in 2008, revised in 2009. Unfortunately, still the revised version, they didn't address migration is a direct outcome of climate change. Yes, the BCCA SAP, they declared that 6 to 8 million people could be displaced by 2050, could be displaced. I'm not sure they will displaced, but is up to 2050, so we have plenty of time to prepare. So this is also an overlook, or you could say loop, in the national planning policy. At least, I should appreciate Bangladesh or the current government, Her Majesty Sheikh Hasina, that she doesn't do this of many of the countries did. The last president of United States, this is his cartoon. He find the solution of the climate change. He said, oh, this is a solution who have desired for with the flooding caused, just put them on a boat. At least Bangladesh government doesn't think like this way. They make some policies. So I truly appreciate that, yes, they did some kind of policy actions. Yes, the policy actions may not be 100% or addressing all the fact, but at least they are talking on these issues. And so this is the planning practice in Bangladesh, how Bangladesh do the planning. There are 2 tiers of planning in Bangladesh. One is national level and another is local level. Bangladesh doesn't have any state like state level planning as practiced in India, but then you have local government. The local government are the city and metropolitan level, the city government. I mean, it's only known as municipality, but we call it city corporation in Bangladesh. So they do their local master plan. And national level plan, that's the government, central government, but central government have a long-term plan, like National Adaptation Program, Climate Change Strategy Action Plan, Gender Action Plan. Those things, there's a bigger thing, and they fund it to the local government to make their plan. So local government do master planning, implementation, housing, roads, all those master plan. On the other hand, the national level, they do the major policy level planning. So local government implementation, national government policy level planning, and the national government involved the international organization. Because all the funding, all the terms come from the international organization for implementing those plans or preparing those policies. The funding or concept coming from international organization. Even the local government, when they go to implement their master plan, they got the fund from the national government. National government borrow the fund from World Bank, IMF, or UN, any other donor agencies. So the international organization, they are playing the key role for making the national level plan and implementing the local level plan. So they are playing the key role for national level plan making and local level. So just an example of the local level plan making. The local government, they follow different plan like this. They said city resilience profiling tool, which is mostly designed by the UN Habitat, not the local government. Urban adaptive strategies, the World Bank concept. So they borrow all this concept or the guideline from the international organization. Why? Because international organizations are the funding agency. As I say, the international organization are the funding agency for national level planning. National level government give the money to the local government to implement it. So eventually they are all motivated by the international organization. And that's why whatever plan or the big word they're using for local level adaptation or implementation, they just nothing but to echo international organization. Now back to our main or the prime slide. If you go to our prime slide, right? What is our prime slide? No, let's go back to our prime slide. I'm almost at the end part. No, oh, come on. Here. Now go back to our definition chart. All the international organization, right? They are the funding organization for national level and local level planning. And they do not say anything or very clearly about climate migration and how to do with the climate migrant. So, and then at the same time, IPCC, international bigger countries or donor countries, they do not say much about the climate migration and how to handle them very clearly. So when Bangladesh is going to use those concept planning issues from them, they're just echoing their concept. So climate migration is not very clear. Once the definition is not very clear, the government always have a loophole how the planning is working for them. However, there are many researchers talking, many researchers arguing that yes, climate migration needs to be worked with an integrating approach. It needs to be part of the development process. We cannot look at it a separate way. However, the national government doesn't have much options to talk about this one. So that's the challenge of planning. And now if I summarize my whole presentation, that Bangladesh has all of the planning policy and application, which is mostly focused on adaptation, but they don't focus that migration could be part of adaptation. If you think migration is a part of adaptation, then national adaptation policy can address climate migration. Bangladesh climate strategic plan can address migration as a part of a strategical action plan, how to relocate them or put them in the build back better system on the origin so they can survive there. So this is the loophole. So overall conclusion, if you ask me to mark, the policy or definition loophole cannot define climate migration very well, and that doesn't incorporate in the planning practice. That is the challenge we are suffering, and that is the place where the researcher have more to do and more to highlight that these are the loophole where we have much to contribute for our society, for our next generation. And thank you so very much for listening to me, and I'm all yours. Ask me whatever I can help.
Great. Thank you so much. Very, very interesting presentation, and also the way you have prepared your slides. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So I would now invite Dr. Bina Sengar to share her views on your work and the presentation that you have just made for us. And also, if Dr. Bina, if you could also pose questions or the gaps that you see, or any comments that you have that could add to the literature and also to the analysis, that would be really welcome. So, Dr. Bina, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Simi. And I must thank Dr. Reazul Ahsan first for giving us an opportunity. It's a privilege, in fact, to listen to you and to understand the micro level analysis which you have done. So as you know, me and myself a participant of a project with Simi, where she's a co-applicant. And we are looking into, broadly, we are looking into the Indian Ocean scenario. And we are predominantly looking into environmental refugees, which also as a terminology has climate refugees and their climate, health, and livelihood patterns in the Indian Ocean world. So, and one of the core areas of our investigation is actually Sundarban Delta. So where our team of environmental refugees, health, livelihood, and climate change project team is working together between India and Bangladesh team. So we are trying to understand the pattern of this whole gamut of actually the climate politics, which I often try to understand myself, because it is more about the balkanization of the very sensitive climatic zones of the world. You're in South Korea, and you know how devastatedly this whole beautiful peninsula of Korea has been exploited by the two giants of the world. And we are so much, we are actually entwined in this whole political gains of these imperialist nations that we can't even say against them, because climate change is not only climate induced, but it also imperially induced kind of a phenomena where the colonial nations are continued to be devastatedly exploited. And I must congratulate you that how finely you have expressed the nuisances of this climate politics, which is bringing out climate refugees, even in the UN and IPCC policy framework. What I really, in fact, one time I was a little jilted because I felt a little bad when you shown the elderly women, and you know how we Asians are so respectful for our elderlies. And
can you think like I took these photos by my hand, and I could see, tears my eyes, like they are.
Yeah, and I could see how much pain you must have felt while saying that she's nobody, because she is one of the most important knowledge holder of our society, especially of the Indian subcontinent or South Asian knowledge systems, and how we are so helpless not to be in a position to help them, because the international climate change policy frameworks are so biased, I would rather say, because they are so segregated even in their implementation. So initially I felt that, like, how can you say that? But I was really impressed when you brought out the framework with which Bangladesh is working now. And the most important part which Professor Ahsan brought out is that the implication policy, the climate change implication policy which Bangladesh is working is not the top-down. It's not a top-down, down-trickle method of climate change combat. It is a climate change resilience policy which is working from ground level, grassroots to the top. It's like bottom to top policies framework. So, and perhaps that is why your GDP is better than India, because you're working on the grassroots issues. Which definitely I think India should learn about, because this is the most crucial aspect which Bangladesh is working on. And I think that benefit comes on because it's it's a unilateral cultural nation, because unlike India, which has a multilateral cultural dynamics and also multilateral climatic zone context, Bangladesh has a benefit that it has only two zones. It has either it has a hilly zone, which is very close to Meghalaya and Tripura belt, and then you have directly the delta zone. So you have a cross-border, not, I won't say cross-border, you have a cross geological and geographic patterns, and where predominantly the deltic region dominates the politics and even the economic framework of Bangladesh. And that is perhaps is the benefit for Bangladesh, that they are, even though it's not a very soon thing, it is quite a delayed policy that 2008, the policy got implemented, and now rapidly they are working on it because the climatic effect is rapid. It is happening in such a rapid galloping way that if an action is not taken at this particular moment, perhaps there will be a total collapse of economy and politics itself in Bangladesh. And we should not, what we are trying to understand in our project, because as you know, this project is going to learn and gain a lot from you. And I must thank Simi for it, that she scouted you and searched you and brought you on our team. She deserves kudos for it, because she brought the right scholar in the pan, in our advisory and even our working panel. Because this is very important, because the basic point I just brought, because you're going to answer to Zamina's work. So Zamina rightly answered that, rightly questioned that how migration seems likely or not likely. She's asking that what is the relatively young and age patterns. I would add on that, like, what about the, I think somebody even asked about the cross-border thing. So, the whole, we really have to think about as Asians, and not only Asians, even everyone, wherever the colonial balkanization took place, whether it's Africa, whether it's West Asia, whether it's India or China or wherever, Asia or even South American continents, where they are suffering now because of these all different border issues. So the whole geological bifurcation of the territories and bringing up the whole, re-changing the whole political geography has in a very violent way, it has affected the climatic communities. For example, the deltic communities of Bangladesh and India, they are not communities which can be bifurcated with a political body. They have their own long tradition of culture and knowledge. Simi, can you just tell me if I'm connected or not?
Yes. We just lost you
because,
for 2 seconds, but you're here.
Because I'm traveling, so I'm working on my I'm working on my hotspot. What I really like, what I really would appreciate work, and also if we can.
I think Dr. Bina's hotspot is presenting some issues. Dr. Bina, if you could just turn off your video, I think that would work and provide you more of bandwidth. And if you could unmute yourself and speak.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Is it okay now?
It is okay
I'm
now.
really sorry. I told you I'm working on an hotspot.
No, that's what we were talking about. Yeah. Please.
Yeah. So I'm really sorry for that. The most important part about which we are trying to investigate in our project is, like, we are trying to investigate on the cross-border but unified, unilinear climatic territories, which are actually bringing out the climatic refugees. So this is something which we can look into, and I would appreciate if you can highlight on this in your Q&A session, that how Bangladesh is trying to look into the cross-border, because we know that this whole cross-border politics is already affecting the Rohingyas and also the Chakmas in Tripura belt. And also we have the very strong resilience and resistance against the cross-border relationships in Meghalaya area. So how we can mitigate that? Because these are the conflict-ridden things, but they are more imperial politics, which are the, the very dreadful impact of the colonial politics, which is affecting the natural geography, the actual physical geography of the territory, whether it's Northeast India or whether it's Bay of Bengal region. So how as the social scientist, we can work on the Asian context or South Asian context on our own. And are you looking into those aspects as well? Because as I was just trying to observe on one of your slides where you were citing on the 1.5 meter drowning position, and by 2100, like if my figures may be wrong because I couldn't recall them so well, but as you know, so almost like 30 million people is not a small amount. It's like the whole population of some of the very large prosperous nations,
more
like,
than the whole population of Australia.
exactly. So and you know, this is the major reason. And I was like, other day I was talking to my sister, I said, like, perhaps nations like us are being deprived because they need cheap labor for their continuing outgrowing out of the proportion prosperity. At one side, they are already investing huge amount of investigations and billions for Mars explorations, and still they are not able to bring out the solution for South Asian or African climatic crisis. So where exactly is it actually rightfully done, or is it or maybe climatic refugees is deliberately not kept into the agenda in priority because they are needed? I may be hyperbolically saying, but is it something which we will have the indentured labors for the other climatic plans as well? This is very hyperbolic, but of course, this is something which is going to affect a lot. And why there is no serious investigations, or why they are not being worked on the cross-border territorial context. Why deliberately you are not letting the cross-border politics resolve these issues. And the worst is, like, you know, Myanmar, Bangladesh and India. Like, because the Bay of Bengal region is one of the worst affected zones, just like you have the Arabian Sea. But fortunately, it is being still resolved because OPEC countries are rich in oil. But imagine when the oil will go down, which is very much in the agenda of the imperial politics, because they want, in name of because of the climate change, they're working on the electronics and all those methods, and adversely, which will affect the mining industries in Africa. So how they are going? So right now, we are not finding this kind of disastrous climatic crisis in the Arabian Sea the way we find in Bay of Bengal. But this is not going to be a far-fetched future, because the day OPEC and oil crisis will go down, like the value of oil will go down.
It's already going down.
Yeah, the similar crisis will happen in Arabian Sea as well, from Gulf of Oman till the Gulf of Kutch and the Indian, the Malabar and Konkan coast. So how we are going to resolve these issues, and do we really work on them, or are we really prepared for, and how we are going to combat it, how the cross-regional politics will work for it. And because I'm from a history background, you know, so for me, you know, because right now it may be climate change, but in the past it was the brutal warfare and the colonial balkanization, which was equally brutal. We know what partition did to our continent, our subcontinent. And so how you look into these cross-border analysis and climate change concepts. So these are few questions which I try to tell about.
All right, I'll try.
Because I'm not going to ask any more questions, because I really want to give it to the audience and the attendees. So once again, I thank you for your presentation. It was really enlightening, and I thoroughly learned a lot from it. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I'm really pleased and thankful that you like our presentation, and then you allow me to present in front of your audience. And yes, a few things, I may not have like much of the Arabian Gulf or those part of the area, but then yes, cross-border issues is a big challenge for Bay of Bengal and that area. Because one reason, I'll come slowly why I didn't address much of the political challenges. The one thing is, in West Bengal and Bangladesh people, we have very much similar face. We have same language, we have same culture, we have same even religion, same food habit, you name it. Almost everything is same. But then this 18 million people, when they are migrated? Yes, they do cross the border. Yes, they do cross the border. However, in my research, I deliberately don't discuss much on this one because that was political issues, and then the Bangladesh government and the Ministry of Environment, they literally says that we don't agree this one, so you are not allowed to discuss on that. So that's like research ethics. But yes, the politics, there is no doubt we can't close our eyes on these issues. 18 million people can't come into the middle of the Bangladesh and they can live there. So somehow they will cross the border. Even a 1% of 18 million, if they cross the border, that's a big amount of people. And it's not that only the Bangladeshi people migrate that side, the other side people also migrate here, because those are the most marginal community of the society. They need some kind of job or some kind of survival strategy, and that's why they either move to the nearest city or cross the border. And that's very easy to cross the border. And from that angle, and the biggest challenge is when someone crosses the border, you cannot distinguish them. The crossing border due to climate change also happened between Mexico and USA, Bolivia and other countries, but they can differentiate in some skill of their language, of their food habit. But then in subcontinent, in India, Bangladesh, especially in Deltic region, it's very, it is really simply hard. You can't differentiate them with their looking at them, or even looking at the culture. They're very similar. And in that point, we are always arguing because both the countries, we are dependent on international organization for funding or implementing some kind of plan for this type of people. And when they are not recognizing these displaced people who are crossing the border or moving from the origin to the central part of the cities, and they are funding it, both the countries are trying to close their eyes that I didn't see anything, or I didn't want to talk about this one. But these things happen, and we need to raise our voice. Like, if these cross-border issues will allow them, then we have to work together how to relocate them on their origin. Or if you want to try to completely forget about them, then get ready for a future big blast. So, in my perspective, when I was talking about this one in the cross-border issues, the human rights issues need to be the first priority. Like, whoever crossing the border thing, they should have some kind of human rights, some kind of survival rights, and that need to be bilateral agreement. Both the countries need to support each other. In this scale, we cannot think we are separate. We cannot think that by geographically, Bangladesh is Bangladesh problem, climate change is India's part of climate change, India's problem. No, it's not. Bangladesh climate change problem is India's problem too. India's climate change problem is Bangladesh problem too. In that point, our policy needs to be at one common point. And the biggest challenge, each country, even India has their own national adaptation plan, Bangladesh has national adaptation plan, and they don't find a common point. And those migrated people, they don't care about these policies. They just need to care about the. So that was a big gap hole. And as a researcher, as you guys are working on it, this is need to be focused one. That in this national adaptation plan, especially for this bigger chunk of people movement, two governments need to work together. The national adaptation policy at one point need to be common. And that either could be relocate those people where their origin by doing a build back better, like creating alternative life standard, alternative livelihood pattern, or if we are to cross them, allow them to cross the border, we have to control in a controlled manner. And if we don't think like this is not our problem, this is Bangladesh problem, and we blame to Bangladesh, and Bangladesh think, no, this is Indian problem, we blame to India, then the pain will come to all of us. As it's coming, US is suffering for this one. And same in Australia, like most of the island near to Australia, like Kiribati, which is already down. And we just think those are the islander people. It's not our problem, but those islander people somehow moving to Australia. So you have to think that these are our neighbor, and our adaptation program should consider our surroundings. So that's the another gap. And Professor, you can say the same, like why this gap is, because both the country, we are depending on the international organization, their funding, climate fund, for implementing our national action plan. And when I'm dependent on you, definitely I'll reflect what you are suggesting me. And that climate politics or bipolar politics, as you said, this is happening. And this will, the same echo will happen in the Arabian Gulf. When the petrol price will gone, they will reflect the who are funding them. So it's a global crisis now. We have to think together. Any other questions I can take? Dr. Simi, you can help me to take any questions.
Yes. Thank you so much for responding to Dr. Bina's comments. And I think she has raised very, very pertinent points. And it actually a continuous work and continuous grassroots work, I would say, and collaboration is the need of the hour, so as to move towards a policy, because even in this first report of the 6th assessment report, it doesn't mention, as you mentioned, about the 4th AR, so of the IPCC. So maybe this kind of work and the contributions that go into the literature would make a difference, because and we hope that among the 14,000 studies that the scientists of the IPCC have consulted, they come across studies like yours and the ones that we are doing in terms of climate refugees. So and then they are able to bring it into the policy domain. So I think continuous, strong, provocative works needs to be pointed out, and that would ultimately lead to the benefit percolating to the people who are literally affected, because you said that you had tears in your eyes, and this really means a lot, for a researcher. And then finally it becomes quite it affects the psyche of the person, and then a lot of other implications also are there. So we need to constantly work towards it. So thank you very much for your work, for presenting your work. And I'll just take a few questions because we have already short the time. So there one question was, who's the person in the cartoon where you mentioned about the boat? So we could just resolve this quickly, then go on to the detailed in the cartoon where you mentioned the boat and the people, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see which image they're talking about.
What is you said, I think, what is climate change, what happens, and then just put them on the boat.
Oh, okay. I got it.
It's the Noah's crisis.
I got it.
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah. That was the question. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. This is sarcasm of the Noah's Ark. The
Okay.
Noah's Ark. Noah solved this problem.
Noah's Ark. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
when the whole world will flood and all the animals will be on board, will be safe.
Okay.
So that's sort of like in last president in Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't believe in climate change.
Yeah.
So they are making the sarcasm like, why we have to think about climate change? Noah has been solved it million years ago. Dig a big boat and solve it.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's not the solution right now.
Sure. So to take the questions, I guess Ms. Zamina is not here, but I'm sure she would be watching us later on YouTube. Could you speak about the need for sustainable water resources management in such settlements? I think it was early on in your presentation.
Yes.
And should clean potable water be a paid service for the migrants or the refugees?
That's a good point. In some sector, the government is trying. Jamina make a very good statement up there. Jamina is like, there are some organizations from Japan and some of the NGOs, I know they are bringing the potable water, especially the coastal areas where there are shortage of the sustainable water. And they are train up the people. I have followed up with some of the organization in Japan. They train the people how to collect the rainwater harvesting. And they are giving them very cheaper price, big tank to collect the rainwater and use it. So that in the coastal area, they're trying to solve it. But then still, the coastal area is a population of 35 million. And giving to each a fresh water supply is huge expensive. But there are training workshops going on. Now back to the cities. When these people move to the city's pipe water supply system, which is, we literally consider this a fresh water, the pipe water supply. the pipe water supply is not accessible to all, and it's a paid service. So now many of the part, they dig that, I don't know what it's called in, this is called deep tube well in English. I don't know what it's called in India or Bangladesh. Deep tube well, you know, hand pump. So the
hand pump,
hand pump, the
borewells.
Borewells, perfect. The borewells, the hand pump goes around 70 feet to 80 feet underground and get the fresh water. And then if you put, that was one of the solution, but if you put more and more borewells, that contaminate the groundwater table. So the government are trying to collect the water, purify them, and sell it in the minimum cheaper price. However, a city of, for Dhaka city, which is now 16 million population and added another 4 to 5 million, 20, 25 million people, and only 2%, that is 20,000 has pipe water supply and 98%. So that's a big challenge. And to overcome this challenge, the people are using the local nearest pond water or the river water. The local NGOs are trying to solve this one by treating this water, minimizing the health impact, but still the outcome is not very remarkable. There are different sustainable water management system, recycling system, but even as a developing country, they don't adopt much. So that's a big gap. And Dr. Simi, I just want to add one thing that you said, that this type of our research book that you are doing, I am doing, you know, we the researcher also, I don't know how you'll take it, we are also selfish. Like, you know, I have seen this one, that you and me never work together. Like, this is a common problem. I'm not saying you and me, but globally, we researcher always solve one part of the problem and for one particular perspective. But climate change and this social migrant issues is not only one Bangladeshi perspective or Pakistani or Indian, it's a global. And we don't want to do it together and then put both the government. Maybe one reason is we don't have access to the policymakers to push them, or the policymakers don't like us to think together. Why you are thinking together? Why you are not separate? And I, Dr. Bina, I find this one in my, I see it in my own eyes. Like when I do the climate migration, then the ministry of the other, they're saying, oh, you live in foreign and just come that, oh, you're somebody, Jesus, come to Bangladesh and solve the problem. I said, no, I'm not that. And that's why they don't want to participate. And here we have something to do together and strongly. And as you say, the IPCC even, sometimes they avoid the root level research. I don't know why. IPCC, they choose their expert by their own network and who can echo their voice.
Yeah, fully agree. I mean, that is
chance. Yeah. I have a chance to work with them, and I say, thank you so very much. I'll go back to my university. I'm happy with my students.
Yeah, I mean, yes, there has to be an incentive to work, at least a psychological incentive that, yes, your work is being recognized. That is very important. And I totally agree that collaboration should not remain isolated, and a lot of complementarities, you know, every time you cannot forge complementarities or force complementarities, but wherever it is possible, definitely it should be recognized, however little the contribution may be. Yeah. So there is another question. What about somebody in the working age and relatively young who has lost her or his family? Migration seems likely or not? So I think this was part of the earlier research that you were presenting, that that person would not like to migrate, and that person says that I've lost my family. So I think it's coming from there.
Okay, that's also, I should say, whoever asked this question is a great question, because these days there are two different theories, like migration decision theories, and some people doesn't want to migrate. But what this happened, I found those scenarios as well. Like when a family, they have someone, when a family is there, so they put them elderly parents or elderly family members in the origin where the cyclone or flood happened. And the working age, the strong one, the working age man or working age people, they move to the city. So why they do it? They do it in two different purposes. Number one, when the government gave some grant or relief for the victim, or the national NGOs or international organization, the elderly people can get that one. On the contrary, the aging people, the working age people can move to the city and can earn some. So they can have a bigger amount, so they can start the life in the origin, which is a social sustaining theory. Like they try to sustain themselves in dividing the family into two. That could be one perspective of thinking, the government, that, okay, the family who are victim, the working age will work for somewhere to get some, so they can go back to their origin and start life. That is one option, but which is never been looked from the government side or policy making side. And now some of the people who are the working age who doesn't want to migrate, the question that as I'm coming back, who doesn't want to migrate, they are always tied. The migration, as I said, migration is a very emotional decision. Like if you are not going for economic migrant, it's getting whole family there. So some of the aging population who are seasonal migrant moved to the city long ago, like they leave their family. This is very common in India and Bangladesh. Leave the family back in the village and the dad work in the city to earn money and send the family back in the village. This is a very common phenomenon in all our countries. And after the cyclone, the dad or the earning age people think is enough, because my family is, I'm working here, I'm trying to save them money and send them, but they're still suffering. So why two people suffer two places? Let bring them with me and suffer all together in the city. So that's another decision. And when they bring the whole family in the city, and the story I told about Mariam, the wife and the kids cannot cope with the urban system. And that causes another long-term consequences on the society. Or even they cope with the urban system, the whole family, when they migrate to the city, before the one person need water, one person need housing, now the whole family need water and housing in the city. And the city planning system is not ready to welcome this migrant, because their resources is not enough, so they are not welcoming. So they put them or push them to go away from the city side and live somewhere in the urban periphery where there is no services at all.
Absolutely. And closely connected with this is another question about the cross-border implications. Because the border is so porous, India doesn't seem to be very happy with refugees, especially in its northeast. What should the Hasina government do? I mean, I think this would be more suitable for the policy recommendations. So anyways, I was thinking of taking it towards the end, but if you could provide your perspectives on this.
I may not be the right person to answer this one. This is very much beyond my area of interest. Yes, because the major challenge of us, as I said before, we have exactly the same culture, same language, same food habit. You cannot differentiate it. And definitely, I do appreciate the Indian government. There are already too much people there. Why should the Indian government take more? I don't say that Indian government, if they protest that, no, I am not going to take any more people from you, which is right, because I am already overburdened. Why you push me more? On the contrary, the Bangladesh government is saying the same. I'm also overburdened. And top of that, the Rohingyas issues. Why should I take more? So in the national level politics, either they're trying to overlook it so that let them survive by their way. Because if I jump in, if the government jump in there, then it should be a refugee. That is, somebody is seeking refuge. And when I am seeking refuge to you, you have to support me. Both the India and Bangladesh government are the signatory country of the UNHCR. So if somebody seeks refuge to Indian government, the government has to give them refuge, either shelter, housing, political shelter, anything, same. And that's why both the government doesn't want to say environmental refugee. They don't want to say this word. Because once you say it, then they have to accommodate them. Either border from this side, they come to here, or this side, they goes there. And that policy, and that's what I'm saying, that now both the country, when we have the same territory, sharing the common border, the national adaptation plan need to be together, not a separate adaptation plan. Bangladeshi adaptation plan, no, because we are adopting the same people. So, and that's why the ministry level need to work together. And I do believe, and I still know that both the current government has very good relation. Both this current government in Bangladesh and India, they have very good relation. And if they think from that perspective, it could be a solution.
Yeah, I fully agree. And especially for neighboring countries, even if it is Bangladesh, India, or any other neighboring countries facing this kind of a challenge, I think a bilateral mechanism needs to be set up in place, and it should look at things very objectively, that this is the problem and this should be the solution, give with all the ground level research that is there. I think that should provide a better understanding. And then here one should also release our the shackles of being nationalistic or even country specific, that and then find a common solution, because ultimately it is the humanity that is the sufferers. Yeah, right. So thank you very much, Dr. Reazul. And I think there is a question for Dr. Bina. I'm not sure whether this is in the context of this, whether I can just read it out for you if that is okay. Disagree with the use of the term imperial and colonial. This repudiates the struggles of post-colonial countries, and to talk about India or even Bangladesh, they could all be termed as above. In their own zone of might and comfort, they're all colonial. If the US and China and all middle powers progress, it is other countries like India who bandwagon on them depending upon their convenience. I don't know whether it is context based or whether it was just you were making some
it's a young scholars
yeah,
it's a young scholars repercussion. It's all right. Actually, it's all that's what we were discussing actually when we were discussing also, and Professor Ahsan has done very nicely. He explained about it's also the research ethics and the limitations of being researcher, like when you know the facts but you cannot help in the policy frameworks. So I think now Zamina is not there, but we would be happy to discuss it on long-term basis. Sure, it's an ongoing struggle, and
yeah, absolutely.
When Harry Magdoff, people from Eric Hobsbawm and Harry Magdoff has said from their own nation.
I appreciate Jamina, because
yeah,
I don't know who is Jamina, but my feelings, Jamina is very much a young researcher. When you're a young researcher, you try to handle all the problems. Why this one? Why that one? And I can feel that enthusiasm on her. Why sustainable water is not a solution? Why this one? When there's a solution, why don't we are doing it? But
then you realize we are actually part of the problems.
We are part. Yes, Jamina, that's the point. We are part of the problem.
Then we realize that how helpless we are, because we are part of the problem of a chain reaction which happens in the global politics. But least we can do is we can just put the things the way they are.
Yeah.
And
so I'll just take a moment and request Anshula, if you could bring Dr. Vidyanath Jha into the panelist, and he could ask the question directly to him, directly to Dr. Reazul. Dr. Vidyanath Jha, we are bringing you into the panelists, so you can ask your question directly. And also about the balkanization of Africa, of Asia. These are casual use of the terms and unnecessarily dragging other concepts here. So I think the response is the same, would be the same, Dr. Bina. Yeah, okay. Were you, okay. So I think Dr. Vidyanath Jha, if you could click on yes, or if you could just type in your question quickly, we could have your comment, because we are facing some problem into bringing you into the panelist. If you could do that. Otherwise, Dr. Bina, you have heard Dr. Reazul respond to all the questions, all your points that you had raised. So would you like to provide any supplementary responses, or it's just fine? And, basically, towards the end, I wanted to know as to what is the way forward. Because our topic is impact. We have all seen, Dr. Reazul has explained so well, you have discussed so well, but where do we actually move from here? We are in the 21st, third decade of the 21st century. And sir mentioned that 2030 is the deadline, but certainly it will be extended because it is sustainable development. So where are we actually headed towards? Why and some recommendations as to what international agencies and second the national governments should undertake to move towards a concrete action based response. So I would start with Dr. Bina and then move on to Dr. Reazul for his concluding remarks.
Thank you, Simi, for giving me this opportunity, because first thing, Professor Reazul had already explained very well. And even during my discussion, I appreciated, because he, on a micro, of course, Bangladesh is not a micro, it's a national level study. But the biggest positive point about the findings of, and the recommended solutions, which since 2008, Bangladesh is already implementing, is they are trying to combat, not from the top-down level, but from the grassroots to the top level. So Bangladesh is already in action. They're trying to bring out the solutions. But the biggest challenge with the nations like Asian, tropical Asian nations is the population boom. So, you know, like the ratio of solution givers and the problem creators is far much than many of the, you know, the progressive, or I won't say progressive, the developed nations, so-called developed nations, who are rich enough to give the solutions in their level. So I think as Zamina was saying, like, you know, Zamina, you're a youngster, as she was highlighting on, that it is, of course, it is a post-colonial factor, but the problem is that we still carry the legacy of colonial problematics which exist with us. So even in the cross-border politics, why we are having it? Because just imagine 70 years ago, this was not a problem. If the people from,
this is a common problem.
In fact, it was a solution, because, you know, Chakmas and Rohingyas were the major working population, and also the major service and skilled service providers, both in the Burma and the northeastern states. So how come all of a sudden in these last 70 years, and especially during this climate disaster era of last 30 years, they are becoming problems, or they are becoming such difficult refugees that nobody is ready to accept them? So somewhere the problem lies because we are the problem makers, and we are part of the problems, because we are so much tied up because of the international pressures, or international funding agencies as well, or international policy makers as well, that we are not able to navigate the solutions which we have in our own spectrum. So these are some of the issues which we can only resolve when we will have a collateral discourse. We will try to solve those problems with our own methods. And unless and until we are going to have grassroots analysis, the problem always comes. This is all about, you know, caste class divide, which we have in our societies. Asian societies, highly caste class inflicted society, in which we have to accept. If we are not going to resolve the issues from caste class perspective, we will never be able to resolve them, because the kind of class which we are creating now is not the actual kind of class which we had traditionally in our society, or which is not a conventional pattern of society. So tell me, who are the biggest beneficiaries of the migrants from the Sundarban or the Bangladesh Delta region? It is the high class societies of Kolkata or Dhaka. I remember one of my friends, she had 5-7 different servants in her house in Kolkata, and they were getting 20 rupees meager per month, which is a sham. And this was not long ago. This was 2014. Why this is happening? Because you are the beneficiaries of the people who are getting exploited because of the climatic crisis, and you are also the beneficiaries of the international funding agencies.
Dr. Bina, I just want to add here. You make
definitely. I think I better stop here, because you're going to give the solution.
No, the one that you said, I'm just saying that who are the beneficiaries? You know, those climate migrants, when they come to the city, the local muscle man and the political leaders of the local area, they said, you can stay in this land. This is a public land, government land. But they said, you can live here and just give me some money. And during the election, you give me vote. I will protect you. So
this is, that's the vote politics. You know, this is the democratic voting politics which they are doing it. The same
they don't let the government
you know.
Yeah, they don't let the government to do anything for them.
True.
They keep them there. I've seen this one. So Yeah, we are the beneficiaries. We create problem. We enjoy the problem.
Yeah.
We get the benefit problem, and then we argue that we have to solve it. But I
So
totally.
we are not, so somewhere the solution, fortunately, Bangladesh is giving us a solution, because when they are putting up the grassroots thing, of course, they are not able to resolve the problem 100%, but at least they have taken a step towards it by resolving. I think the very famous banking person, the cooperative bank, I'm forgetting his name.
Yeah,
Grameen
Dr.
Bank.
That's a shame on me that I'm forgetting his name.
Dr.
Grameen
Enos.
Bank.
Yeah, so when he brought the idea of Grameen Bank, which actually even was tried by Mahatma Gandhi and J.C. Kumarappa a long time ago in 1920s, when they started the Gram Swaraj movement, it was actually a grassroots initiative, which Grameen Bank later brought really in action, and they could successfully resolve so many issues. Because this is what the problem of our nations is. We are not rich nations. We have to accept it. And we are not also less populated like them. We have to accept that as well. But we are part of the problem. That's what we can say, at least. So I think this is what I have to say. And I really thank Dr. Ahsan for bringing out such lucid conversation possible, because, he didn't brought any of those, those conflicting dominant ideological perspectives. It was really, it was a joy discussing the problems of us for which we are
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's the real picture of what we are. And
Yes.
now, from Bangladeshi perspective, I think, as I totally agree with Dr. Bina, like the solution is in our hand. But then if you look from three different perspectives, like number one, the major limitation of us, I'm like saying the major limitation of us, the country is so big. I mean, the population is so big. That's a bigger challenge. And then there is a big difference between the rich and the poor. So, and even the government economical condition is that it says that even they want something, they cannot solve it. So the problem raised in Bangladesh, as I'm thinking, the Bangladesh start thinking from the very rural area, they address the who are migrating, why they're migrating, but to accommodate them somewhere, they has to depend, Bangladesh has to depend on the international finance. And when the finance come, yes, I don't say that Bangladesh climate fund is not coming. There's a huge amount of climate fund came Bangladesh every year. And this fund is not appropriately used. This fund is used by different ways. I mean, in a corrupted ways. The beneficiaries get very little amount. And even the government has a policy like build back better, like bring them back to their origin with alternative livelihood. Who was a fisherman now can be a floating farmer. Who was a farmer before can be fisherman or some other income sources. And that needs to be bilateral way. So there are the problem that I found from my knowledge that there are, as you said, that we have to accept that we are overpopulated. We have to accept that we are poor. But then we also have to accept that this problem is a common problem. We can't think it separately. We have to do it together. And when the global assistance was seeking it from the others that we have a problem, then solve the problem with our way, with somebody's assistance, not solve the problem with their way. Like there's the English proverb that you don't know how the shoes fit for me as long as you don't wear it. A shoemaker doesn't know how I feel that shoe because I am the one who wear it. So that United Nations, IPCC, they are the shoemaker. And they don't know how I can, and when they give the solution, they give the solution from the shoemaker perspective. But who we are, the India and Bangladesh, who are wearing the shoes, who are suffering this problem, we don't have solved this one. And top of that is this high-class people in between who are so-called, Jamina saying the middleman, who just enjoy the benefit of this migrant people or these poor issues. So, and I don't think that we cannot really accommodate those people. Yes, Bangladesh is a small and so much population, but still many part of the country is not at all populated. There's most of the places that people can be accommodated and find an alternative livelihood pattern. We can think on this one. Same for India. There are places where you can accommodate those people with an alternative livelihood. But when government is thinking some other musclemen or political leaders or some policy issues, using them for their own interest. So we have to break the cycle. And Since 1970 or our human history or subcontinent history, we are always talking, we have to break the cycle. Yeah. And in like before 1947, Bhagat Singh said the same thing, break the cycle, make it for everybody. Khudiram said the same thing, break the cycle, make it for everybody. And even me today are saying the same word, break the cycle, make it for everybody, but we keep on enjoying it. So this problem became an historic problem. And only solution could be, or Bangladesh or India could go forward, is we need to work it together. And we look the problem is our problem. We create the problem, solution is our hand. So we can ask somebody to help or guide or mentor, but don't give us the solution. We always ask them the solution. If we can stop that, don't give us our solution. We'll find the solution. Then we could find a solution.
Absolutely. So this is so novel way of approaching and ending the wonderful session. Thank you so much, Dr. Reazul and Dr. Bina. It was wonderful listening, learning from you, and it really enriched our own understanding of the problem. You know, it just gives more and more deeper insights into the challenges that we are facing. And also, you know, as you mentioned, Bhagat Singh and the others, you know, this can be a revolution, and this should be a revolution in bringing this to the
Should be a
notice.
revolution.
Absolutely. In notice,
because we don't have any war in front, we have climate is in front. This is our war.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this should, you know, as when they were bombing in the British times, that the noise be heard by the deaf also. So at least we can have this as vocal as possible in the ears and senses of those who are in power, so that they can take some concrete steps. Solutions are there. It's all there. In the role of indigenous communities, perhaps we could talk about that later in another session. That also needs to be brought out. And you know, localized solutions should be there in terms of how we tackle climate migration and also urban planning, both in India and Bangladesh. It is really very, very important. So thank you so much. And I would now like to propose the formal vote of thanks on behalf of the IMPRI Center for Habitat, Urban and Regional Studies. This discussion was very important, especially given that we ourselves, as part of a collaboratory team, Dr. Bina, I, on behalf of IMPRI, we are part of this multilateral collaboration. We need to have more and more greater understanding on this as we go forward. So thank you so much to Dr. Reazul Ahsan for joining us this evening from South Korea, and it must be quite a night, and it is supper time for you. So thank you so much, and also Dr. Bina for your presence, and you really added a lot in the discussions. I'm sure all of you had a great time interacting and discussing. Yes.
Thank you so very much. And I have my contact email there.
Absolutely.
And if
Sure.
I could be any help or anything I can share, and we can start breaking from being separate researcher.
Absolutely.
So
I agree.
I'm more than happy to be a part if I can be any help in
Sure.
any way.
That's
really appreciable
kind of you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are really grateful, and have a good night and good evening. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. You all enjoy your day.
Bye.
Bye.
You too.